morning, everyone. It is now 10:24 a.m. and we have decided to explore where we're living today, which is Canterbury. So that's why we got out so late. And our first destination is actually gonna be St. Augustine Abbey, and it opens at 10 a.m. Ooh, I just noticed there is a fish and chips shop here. This telephone booth box kind of reminds me of the one in Hampstead Heath. Apparently, this is a really Instagrammable river. Oh, it's called Guy's Bridge and it was built in 1994. But I don't think it's pretty at all. Even though I don't think this bridge is pretty, I still took 2 photos here like this. So this west gate of Canterbury is used for defending the Roman town defenses. Nothing is known of the arrangement of the Roman gate. Oh, there's a really ancient pub here. I might want to take a photo of it. Oh, so this is the Canterbury Pilgrim Hospital of St. Thomas. It's open. This is the whole picture of the hospital. And then there's also a statue here. Oh, it is Geoffrey Chaucer. This is actually called the Best Lane, and the high street is in front of us. And there's a picture of the last meal, because this is the 5 biscuits to fish story. This is the Royal Museum and Free Library. It is closed, I think, but it is so big. If we went inside, I would be in there the whole day. We went into the museum to get a leaflet so we can find out more about Canterbury. There are some artwork here. This is called the garden room. So these animals has actually been depicted by Thomas Sidney Cooper and has been domesticated as livestock. So we have come out of the library. We are gonna walk to St. Augustine's Abbey. Ooh, there's a sushi restaurant here, but it's closed. There's a Sun Hotel here, and it was built in 1503, so it might be quite haunted. So this is the entrance of the Canterbury Cathedral, but it doesn't open until 12:30 on Sundays, so we're gonna go to St. Augustine Abbey first. And there is also a statue here. It says dedicated to the owner. Ooh, there's a China shop here, but the stuff that they're selling doesn't look like it's from China. And we have walked past this Catholic church and shrine of St. Thomas Canterbury. I think we want to go to the service at night, so we're gonna visit this at night time. There's another Chinese restaurant here called Royal Inn. So we are finally inside the St. Augustine's Abbey. And I asked the staff if I'm allowed to fly my drone here, and they said no. But they told me that we can actually ask beforehand. So I might try and email them and ask if I can drone in Rochester Castle, because I'm gonna go there on Tuesday. After listening to the audio guide, I realized I have been saying the name wrong all along. It is St. Augustine Abbey, and I realized this church and Christianity began, and that's why this place is such an important tourist attraction to come to. And now we have to go over to the panel. Augustine founded the first church here in AD 597. called the New Church. It is an Anglo-Saxon style church. And from the audio guide, I learned that some of these stones were moved from Isle of Wight, and Augustine also built this church by himself. This is the tombs of kings and archbishops, and it is the visible remains of Augustine's first church. This is the south cloister, and the monks would spend most of their time here when they are not in the church. So this is the Abbey's refectory, and the monks would eat here together twice a day, and a typical meal would be bread and vegetables or broth, and meat was forbidden except on special occasions. And I learned that most of the food came from across Kent, and I also found out that opposite us is actually the King's School, and then the Abbey is over there. This is the chapter house, and this is where the monks would gather together to read a chapter from the Rule of Saint Benedict. The Wolfric Rotunda, and no one was sure what it was meant to be used for, but in the 1090s, the Norman monk Gosselin thought that it was unsuitable for monastic use. That is the crypt of the Norman church, and the monks would come and pray here. This is Chapel of St. Thomas the Apostle, and the chapel dedicated to St. Thomas special masses. This is a full picture of the old chapel. This is the chapel of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and it was used for singing of Mass for nearly over 200 years. And you can still see its wall paintings, designs of heraldic lions in circles. So these are also surviving floor tiles. This chapel of Richard of Chichester, and this chapel was dedicated to Richard of Chichester. He was an Englishman who became Bishop of Chichester in 1245. I think they expect you to cross over here. So Henry VII closed this abbey in 1538 because he wanted it to be a royal palace for his new wife, Anne of Cleves. Even though she didn't use it in the end, it was later used by both Queen Elizabeth and King Charles I. This is the floor of the Abbey, so there's also a little museum inside. So this is the grave, and they were often uncovered during the rebuildings of abbeys. So I learned that there used to be 300 books, and they were placed outside the chapter house, but I think only 50 of them survived, and 4 of them are in Canterbury Cathedral, and the rest of them are spread out in the British Library and the Lambeth Palace Library and libraries in Cambridge. So that was very interesting to find out. So this is Saint Hadrian of Canterbury, and he was the Archbishop of Canterbury. He traveled to England to become abbot of the monastery of Saint Peter and Saint Paul, and later became Saint Augustine Abbey's archbishop as well. In 519, Gregory was elected as pope, but because he was unable to fulfill his pledge, Augustine was sent to Rome. The church that we saw outside the St. Peter and St. Paul was also completed by Augustine. This is St. Martin's Church. I think my mom wanted to go there for a service tonight. Those were actually found preset in the base of the Abbey Church. So the rule of St. Benedict was actually written during the early 6th century, and all the monks had to follow it. Actually went to school in the monastic school, and they were able to learn Latin, Greek, scripture, poetry, astronomy, medicine, law, and musical chants. Gano-shaft was actually a loose spiral convention used from the late 12th century to imply sanctity. It reputed from belfry stage of the Ethelbert Tower. The Church of St. Peter and Paul was specifically designed for burial chambers. Saigon became abbot of the monastery in 1496. Monks' typical day would start at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there would be free services of matins, louds, and prime. The monks followed all the rules, they would be able to become abbots and be in charge. These demonstrated the wealth of the community. This is Mary of Magdalene. These were used in the floor of the abbey. In 1932, Henry VII declared himself as the supreme head of the Church of England. Anne of Cleves was arriving at the newly converted palace in the area of the great court of St. Augustine's Abbey. This site was purchased by A.J. Beresford Hope to rescue the inheritance of their forefathers. These stone heads, and then this might be the king's head. These two costumes were made by Mrs. Audrey Coppice during 2006. It was used to console with the unveiling cemetery on Nathan Watson's Green. I've said this already, but St. Martin's Church is the oldest church in the English-speaking world. Time was measured by the movements of the stars, the sun, and the moon. I always wondered how time was measured. This bone-handled iron knife was used to cut up and serve bread and the ceramic. The abbey was rededicated to St. Augustine by Archbishop Dunstan in 978. And I have finally finished. I was in there for 3 hours. Ooh, I just realized this lane is called Love Lane. Oh my gosh, look at this house. It's so pink. There's a very stylistic Indian restaurant here. Oh, there is a privy here. Back at Mercery Lane, there is also an American candy shop there. Okay, so I'm now inside the cathedral. I was supposed to meet up with my parents at a restaurant, but I can't seem to find them. A York Minster, and it holds 128 windows. Collection of medible stained glass. Oh no, the cathedral is being reconstructed at the moment. This is the Canterbury Cathedral. They've got the Christmas tree here. And they've got some paintings here. There's a fountain here. This is the close-up look of the gate. Oh, no photography allowed it in this part. Now out of the crypt, and I'm finally allowed to video the church again. Oh, and I finished the church, I think. I think it's worth paying to come inside this church. So if you want to save some money, then don't come in this church. Okay, so I'm now at the old butternut squash with my parents, but they already finished their food. So I'm gonna have a super late lunch as it's now 3:47 p.m. Oh my gosh, the violin lights up when it plays. So I home, and my parents went to St. Thomas Church. The service doesn't run till 6 o'clock. I wanted to come home first because I didn't want to wait for an hour. So we also went to Tesco beforehand to get some dessert for tonight, because when we finished our meal, it was already 4 o'clock, so we were like, we're not going to be hungry for dinner, so we're just going to get some dessert. We bought this Tesco tiramisu, and then I got this dark chocolate for my friend, 54%. She requested 60%, but that's close enough. And then my mom got these chocolates, so... yeah, I'm gonna edit until they come back from church. It is now 8:05 and we are making our dinner. And this is gonna be our dinner tonight. That's the leftover turkeys from yesterday. And this is gonna be in our soup. We have decided to lit the fireplace because the owner has really kindly given us a set of free woods. And because it is the 4th of December, we want to celebrate Christmas here because we don't really celebrate Christmas in Hong Kong. Okay, we've got a problem. We don't have a fire match, so guess we're not gonna lit it up. We found the fire match, so we're gonna lit a fireplace for the first time. This is our soup. There's egg and spinach in it. And we have finished making our pork rib and our leftover turkey from last night. And that's where I ended the vlog. Don't forget to subscribe.